So now, something. There's something. There's a movie that I know you've not heard about it. It's starring Anthony Mackie. You have not heard about it because it basically, I don't know. I'm not sure why the marketing or whatnot, but it's featuring Anthony Mackie, Captain America, the new black Captain America, and they spent $150 million on this movie. So we are going to listen into this particular content creator. It's called Dan Morel from there in America, and he's going to talk about this one because it was very interesting to me to see the level of where we've gotten to, because Anthony Mackie is meant to be a huge box office draw, meant to be, but I don't think he is. And we've been forced to. I mean, he's a good actor, but a lot of the politics of America has come in, Hollywood and whatnot, and really, and he doubled down on it and followed through. So it really did endear him to a lot of fans. And I think this is the part of the reason why this movie isn't doing that well. So let's listen in to Dan Morel and see Walupa.
If you haven't heard of the movie Desert Warrior, I wouldn't blame you. When I saw it pop up on the upcoming release schedule, I assumed that it was just another low to mid-budget movie starring Anthony Mackie, like last year's Elevation, which I bet you've definitely heard of. When I did charts with Dan this past week, I didn't even mention it, but when I looked deeper into last weekend's box office, I realized that Desert Warrior is anything but your typical forgettable movie. It's a blockbuster-sized film that was supposed to establish Saudi Arabia as a power player in the movie industry, something that it very much didn't do.
So the movie is funded by the Saudis. All right. So probably you'd expect they want to do a lot of Middle Eastern law and whatnot. So the Desert Warrior. Okay, let's just listen to what Dad has to say.
While Desert Warrior wasn't made in Hollywood, it featured a lot of talent that you've seen in or behind Hollywood films.
Looks good.
The director was Rupert Wyatt, who successfully rebooted the Planet of the Apes series with Rise of the Planet of the Apes in 2011. One of the writers was David Self, who wrote the Tom Hanks film Road to Perdition, which I really like, among others. And the movie star is Anthony Mackie, alongside Sir Ben Kingsley and Charlton Copley. In Desert Warrior, Mackie
Kingsley is always used as a Middle Eastern. But it's a strong cast. If you think about it, a very strong cast, Mackie and Kingsley, that should ordinarily mean a strong movie. But anyway, let's find out why. Anyway, maybe it's because it's Saudi.
Zala, a bandit in 7th century Arabia, who comes to the aid of the Arabian princess Hind, played by Aisha Hart, who refuses to submit to Ben Kingsley's evil Kisra, the emperor of Persia, now known as Iran. This culminates in the epic Battle of Dukar, a real-life battle that, spoiler alert, the Arabians won. Packed with massive action sequences and big stars, Desert Warrior cost a reported $150 million, the most expensive movie ever produced in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow, sorry. Choked on the coffee.
And yes, Desert Warrior was produced not just in Saudi Arabia, but by Saudi Arabia, which in recent years has been courting big Hollywood talent and is now looking to become a major movie-making force in its own right. Now, if you're asking...
Okay, if because I've seen just a bit of the shots that I've seen and whatnot, it looks like it's really well produced, really high quality and stuff. So if it's them, because Saudi has gone around buying properties across the world, Premier League, blah, 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 blah. So it's how they do things, but this one of spending $150 million on something, unless you have an international audience, I don't think the Saudis, yes, they're rich, but they're not going to sell tickets in Saudi worth $150 million. Let's be real about this, or even anything close. So this is, I would say, a promo. They're trying to promote the movie, the movie industry, so it's more of a promo. So it's like they're sinking money into the promo. That's what it looks like. Although I have to tell you, it does look good. See those hyenas jumping out of those and I'm sure there are many battles. This is one of those movies I'll watch. It's tanked. I don't know why. So while we are watching this, I don't know why it's tanked. It looks decent, but I haven't heard of it. So likely the marketing. How do you spend 150 million and you don't market?
Why is Saudi Arabia so aggressive about building its film industry now? Keep in mind that movie theaters were banned in Saudi Arabia for over 30 years until they were allowed to open again back in 2018. And it's part of an initiative called Saudi Vision 2030, a government program to diversify the country's economy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. But also, it's kind of they've noticed the economy just can't be it can't be based just around oil, and I think that's how they've go. But I think the problem I have with this that they're not seeking to build their own things. Okay, maybe not totally, because like their league right now, they invested a lot of money. They like signing all these big time players from Europe who maybe are past their best or whatnot, but they're offering atrocious amounts of money, which is what I call they're sinking money into the promotion. Maybe the Saudi League becomes a big thing in the future. Who knows? Doubtful. It might be big in the Middle East, and I think that might be enough for it to basically be a going concern. I think the movies too, and Saudi actually has one of the Red Sea. It's called Red Sea Fund. Yeah. I have been applying on that one, but they're a bit woke also. So I think to be allowed into America, they have to become a bit woke
and become less independent on oil as a primary source of income. This program was unveiled in 2016, and its architect is the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, next in line to the throne. One of Vision 2030's pillars is to enhance society in Saudi Arabia in the worlds of art, sports, and other endeavors. And Saudi Arabia wasted no time courting American talent to help them reach that goal. In the world of sports and sports entertainment, Saudi Arabia has made big moves. In 2018, they announced a 10-year partnership with WWE that would bring several major events to the country. WWE has broadcast from Saudi Arabia 18 times since 2018 and will bring its biggest event of the year, WrestleMania 43, to the country next year.
Netflix, ESPN.
There was controversy about this from the start because women were initially not allowed to participate in WWE Saudi events. That was loosened in 2019 when female wrestlers were allowed to participate in more conservative outfits.
The thing is this is a culture that is fighting not to be overtaken by the West. I think it's a losing battle because there is something very attractive about how the West does things, the freedoms and whatnot. It's just very attractive to the human spirit. You just want to be part of it, Find something, freedom of speech, and it's very sellable. That kind of culture is very sellable as opposed to very radical, like Islamic cultures, like very strict. It is what it is. You can't run away from that. And a lot of these countries that the Saudis want to go and do business with are not strict, and they actually don't want even to deal with a lot of the taboos of Islam. So they're saying, hey, you have to loosen, your women have to start driving, brother. Your women have to drive, we even allow you in here. So this is how cultures are changed. It is what it is.
The Saudis also bankrolled Live Golf, a professional golf tour launched in 2022 to rival the US's PGA, which managed to lure away several professional golfers with big paydays.
This is the problem. You can't really just buy everything. Things like sport, it's a very cultural thing. It's embedded in people. Like if you look at the Premier League, the reason why we like the Premier League so much, Sisi kama Arsenali, is because years and investment in the product, which has translated to years and years of fan acquisition, fan loyalty. These are the things you can pump money, yes, but you're just not going to buy loyalty. You're going to have to build a loyal base, which, most of the time it takes a few generations. But these days, because information moves so fast and whatnot, it might take you, but it will take you years, at least 10 years, at least to have one young generation grow to be adults to be able to to be your customers or whatnot. So you can't just come and say, I want this, here is $10 billion. And it, even for people who support Manchester City, they know they have that caveat of they are being funded by a whole nation. So even if they win a lot of things, there's respect isn't as much. Although, to be honest with you, you win, you win. It's just that even Man City, the way it's been so dominant, it's still a smaller club than Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea. They're still smaller in terms of fan base. But the next generation of people would see the winnings of Man City and patronize. So that's maybe where they're going to converge. Converge. Shikana over there. So maybe that's what they're looking for. And I think that would work. It would work, but not immediately. But I guess maybe they have a multi-year plan. Who knows? They've Man City. There seems like a long-term plan, and those other, what is this one called? PSG, the ones we are meeting in the final.
Those players were
I
subsequently
digress.
banned from the PGA, though those restrictions have been loosened a bit. The Saudi
Money.
relationship with Hollywood is
Money.
beginning to thrive, but it got off to a later start than other industries due to real-world events. The American film industry briefly backed away from Saudi Arabia after the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. Khashoggi was a Saudi journalist who heavily criticized the leaders in that country, especially.
Let me tell you, there's no way this can just be used as something to delay and maybe increase the cost of the thing, but it's not going to stop the business. Nobody is going to put aside billions of dollars in business because of Khashoggi. In as sad as it was, I'm just telling you what the facts
especially
about life.
Prince Salman, and he was killed at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Multiple investigations found that the killing was on the orders of the Saudi prince. However, the first Trump administration disputed those reports, including one from the CIA, and encouraged continued close relations with the Saudis. The Biden administration...
There's just too much money to be made with Saudis. I know the weapons, the what, they have the oil, the weapons, all these things. There's too much. So even this thing, you might say it's horrible, this, but in the grand scale of things, they're not going to stop doing business because of it.
Declassified reports naming bin Salman as the person responsible.
I might even tell you that they will, the amount of money say they've spent on this 150 million on this movie, part of it is sort of like a bribe, I'll overpay your stars and your producers and your VFX people to build the relationship because they can absorb the shock, the financial shock.
Immune from prosecution due to his position and also maintain close ties.
Yes.
After the fallout subsided, the U.S. entertainment industry has launched an increasingly close relationship with Saudi Arabia, especially when it comes to film and television production. The 2023 Gerard Butler film Kandahar received a major investment from the Saudis. Last year, the first Riyadh Comedy Festival...
Yeah, this one, I have to go... I want to get this. I want to get it, and I don't know is it even out. This Riyadh Comedy Festival, they had everyone: Dave Chappelle, Norman, all the people I like were there except maybe this guy. They had everyone: Chris Tucker, Kevin Hart, Bill Burr. The car is called Car. This fellow, Fluffy. All these people are there, and. Man, all of them, Andrew Schultz, everybody.
Landed comedians.
Pouring that money. You see, all these guys are Americans. Pouring that money into that. I believe that's part of it. You warm, just pay your way through if you have the money.
Like Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Kevin Hart, Gabriel Iglesias, and Louis C.K. A lot of those comedians
even Louis C.K.
criticism for accepting the invitation and the payday, which they've largely defended. This year,
people need to cut the crap. There are comedians. There are a lot of people who want to virtue signal. Don't take money from this person, but they're also they themselves are taking money from other people who are even worse. So this virtue signaling is usually to try and control the industry or industries. No, don't deal with that person because they don't want the person to make inroads. So that's part of it. It's not just... when you see people complain, they say, oh, Khashoggi this, Khashoggi that. But if you are going to expand it to find out what these other people are criticizing and are making money from, you might you might say you're being sponsored by a certain company. I'm not going to mention any because I hope they sponsor me. But you're dealing with a certain company that's mining using children somewhere. Yes, see, there's that aspect there you're ignoring just to receive the product. Yes, so it's virtue signaling. Most of the time, most of us don't really care where how our products are made as long as they're there and we can afford them. I mean,
Beast
it is
took his
what it is.
Amazon game show Beast Games to Saudi Arabia to film the end of its second season.
Welcome to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
I'm sorry, this guy does great things, but it's so plastic, man. Jesus Christ.
So cool.
So sick.
Bro, this city's incredible.
Better than Beach City for sure.
And just this week, in filings with the FCC, Paramount disclosed that its proposed merger with Warner Brothers would include 49.5% ownership in the new company from foreign investors, including the Saudis owning a 15% stake in the company. At a time when the entertainment industry is struggling, Saudi Arabia is looking to invest, and many U.S. entertainers and production companies are happy to take the money.
The Chinese also did that when they bought the theaters. They've bought a lot of shares, like in American theaters and entertainment. So it's the same thing. As long as you bring the money, utauziwa kitu.
But Desert Warrior was not an investment in a U.S. company or U.S. talent. It was a bid to start building the necessary skills and infrastructure to start making...
Yeah, what do you mean it's not even U.S. talent? Like, the main character is an American... What is this guy talking about?
movies in Saudi Arabia and export them around the world, similar to what India has built with its film industry or what China has been able to build domestically with its industry. A booming native film industry would provide some of the economic diversification that Saudi Arabia is seeking. Desert Warrior was announced in 2021 and wrapped filming in early 2022. It was financed and co-produced by MBC Studios, the film arm of MBC, Saudi Arabia's biggest broadcaster, which is majority owned by the country's sovereign wealth fund.
Yes, the government.
Because of the country's relative inexperience producing films, experienced talent like the actors, writer, and director I've already mentioned were brought in, along with producer Jeremy Bolt, whose previous...
So why is this? Why do you think that? Like you're saying that they're the reason, for example, even when you deal with them in terms of weapons and whatnot, is because they buy the stuff. Like, I don't know how this guy is trying to separate that, because they need America and they need the American market also. Not just the local market is too small. The Saudis, they're too few in terms of actually people who are going to make the industry grow. And especially if you're spending $150 million on a movie.
Films include Death Race, Polar, and Monster Hunter. Most of the movie's key crew members were Hollywood veterans, with Saudi crew members filling in some of the everyday roles to learn the ins and outs of making a movie, which was, as I said, the largest production ever filmed in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Stuart Ford, one of the film's executive producers, whose company AGC Studios co-produced the film, acknowledged this in an interview, saying, quote, "I think Desert Warrior is something of a statement movie, certainly on behalf of the Saudi film industry, but actually the entire Arab-speaking region. And like in any growing production sector around the world, initially you need to import some expertise and Hollywood know-how. But the goal is obviously to infuse that know-how into the local industry."
So for us, that was Nairobi Life, that entire program. Nairobi Life, Supermodo, that entire... all those movies were made under the same program that was meant to do that to us, but us, we were using mostly German talent, film talent, to come and teach us. But it became what, as it normally does in Kenya, people close themselves off over there. They don't want to do any more movies because people are used to grants. They don't want to make movies to try and chase profit. So there's no industry. If you're not doing movies to chase profit, to chase ticket sales, there's no industry. Because what are we depending on? Grants. You get grants from Saudi, Red Sea, sijui where in America, sijui where in Germany. But we are not trying to make the movies that we can sell here. Our homies watch and our industry mate watch in one day, it's over, then there are no more sales. So that is what they are trying to do, but I believe they have the resources to go harder and farther than us because, but generally speaking, does this work? I don't know. I don't know if the Brazilian industry grew out of that. They also had a similar program. So I think it can work if the country involved takes it up as an investment. The government puts investment. We had some in KFC, but of course, Africa ikaingia, the money went, disappeared. So we don't have that investment anymore. The president with Kalasha the other day said $500 million is going to be spent. I mean, I hope, we can always hope, but I've seen what happens when big amounts of money are availed. Yes.
End quote. The 2021-2022 shoot for Desert Warrior largely filmed around Neom, the long in development Saudi Arabia super city. Many of the film's facilities were built specifically for the shoot, and some of them were meant as an investment for future film shoots. When production wrapped 4 years ago, a lot of people believed that this would be Saudi Arabia's calling card in the global film industry. But things got difficult from there. The editing process for Desert Warrior was protracted and reportedly contentious. Rupert Wyatt left the film after months of editing amid reported creative differences. The original...
Yeah, the people, the government and its people want to remove some authentic things. They want to introduce their censorship around their religion and what and what. Once you start doing that, the movies just stop being nice.
Cut was also reportedly over 2.5 hours long, which NBC was not happy with. Despite reshoots done in 2023 by Wyatt, early test audiences in the U.S. responded negatively to the movie. After Wyatt left, Kelly Dixon, the editor of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, was reportedly brought on to recut the film, though this version also faced issues. When the new version was shown to potential buyers in the U.S., they also reportedly felt the same as the initial test audiences, that the film just wasn't that good. It wasn't bad, just not very good. Rupert Wyatt was then brought back onto the project to finish the edit, cutting the runtime down to just over 2 hours. Despite NBC's hope that Desert Warrior would launch in 2024 at a major film festival like Cannes or Venice, with a big theatrical release shortly thereafter, no buyers emerged. And it wasn't just because the film...
That would probably because I think that it's too expensive. I think it's too expensive, or maybe the story isn't good enough to recoup that from the theaters, which is clear because it didn't
knock anyone's socks off. In the years that Desert Warrior was in the editing room, the film wasn't the only thing in a state of constant change. The world had changed around it too. In 2023, the war in Gaza began, introducing more instability into the Middle East and reportedly making many studios in the US wonder if now was the time to buy a film featuring two large armies fighting each other in the Middle East. In June of 2025, the United States conducted airstrikes against nuclear facilities in Iran, which may have further deterred buyers after Iran had already called Desert Warrior, quote, historical revisionism in 2024. Why further inflame those tensions? And while many Saudi investments are still going...
If the movie is good, nobody cares. If the movie is really good, stories are great and the acting is good and it looked like the production quality is good, people wouldn't have cared. So there is... In my estimation, it seems that there is a problem with the quality of the script. Yes, the stories did not catch the people. I think despite the epic battles they've shown there, I don't think that the story is engaging as such.
Full steam, others have faltered. Just this week, news broke that the Live Golf Tour will lose its Saudi funding, likely ending the enterprise altogether. The Saudis also scaled back their plans for that super city, Neom, after years of delays and cost overruns. And while ventures like the WWE Saudi events and the Riyadh Comedy Festival may have been lucrative for the participants, they also faced heavy criticism in the US and around the world. Desert Warrior was looking like more of a risk, or at least a potential headache, than many studios might have wanted to take on, especially for a movie that test audiences and many in Hollywood apparently thought just wasn't very good. Desert Warrior premiered at the Zurich Film Festival last fall, not quite Cannes or Venice, and also played...
Let me see that. Let me see. 7th century Arabia, a time of feuding tribes vying for power and supremacy. Courageous princess Hind, Aisha Hart, refuses to serve as concubine to the merciless Sassanid Emperor Kisra Saben. Kingsley escaping with her father, King Numan, into the vast and unforgiving desert. Hind is pursued by Kisra's mercenary and his brothers. So, I think I know what the problem is. I think it's a woman empowerment movie. the princess, she defied. Yeah, this is an woman empowerment movie. You can't convince me otherwise. You can't.
Quite Cannes or Venice, and also played at Saudi Arabia's Red Sea Film Festival in December, but
I
no
talked about
US
the Red Sea.
distributors were biting. Finally, in February of this year, about 2.5 weeks before the US launched its current war with Iran, Desert Warrior found US distribution through a company called Vertical, an independent distributor mostly known for picking up small independent and international releases.
Bro,
Vertical's highest
imagine your movie won 50 million. Skull, you are bought by somebody who buys small independent films. So they've downgraded it to nothingness. They messed with the wrong mother. Oh, so they have kidnapped.
grossing film in the U.S. to date is the 2017 Halle Berry thriller Kidnap, which made $30.9 million domestically. Their most infamous movie is perhaps Gotti, the John Travolta film that I personally got into a Twitter feud with. Vertical generally operates on volume, picking up lots of movies that either get limited theatrical runs or direct-to-streaming releases, with box office grosses rarely breaking the single digits. If you saw Aubrey Plaza's performance in Emily the Criminal, or Nicholas Holt's performance in The Order, or Lucy Liu's performance in Rosemead and thought, hey, why didn't that get more attention? Well, Vertical released all of those movies. According to the company's filmography, they distributed 49 films last year alone. So we have a $150 million Saudi Arabian film coming off years of troubled production, picked up by a small distribution company with no experience releasing or marketing a blockbuster film, with a time frame of less than 3 months between acquisition and release to promote and market the movie at a time when Middle East tensions are at their highest. I guess it's really no surprise what happened next. Desert Warrior opened last weekend in 1,010 theaters in the US and Canada, barely qualifying as a wide release, and brought in just over $487,000.
Well, over 1,000 theaters, and you make less than $500,000. That's really bad. And you spent $150 million. Like this is, oh my goodness. This would probably be the biggest flop, bang for buck. So I'm assuming maybe eventually it makes like $2 million or something like that. Maybe with some licensing, maybe 5. Still, one, oh Lord of mercy.
That's in the all-time top or maybe bottom 25 when it comes to worst performances ever for a new movie opening in 1,000 theaters or more. The few critics who did bother to see it, like the test audiences and potential buyers, weren't really impressed with the film. Even the most positive reviews.
So the because I'm looking at, I normally just I care more about the viewer reviews more than the what are they called? The reviewers' reviews, the official reviewers' reviews. To me, those people like me, really, I'll just give you my opinion about that, because my opinion is normally layered with my own biases, the types of movies I like and types of cinematography or actors or whatnot. But objectively, most of the time when you let enough people watch the thing, you'll get objectively how people felt about the movie or how good the movie is. So yeah, they say 60% the audience.
Still labeled it as a trope-filled movie that was impressive in scale. Not an absolute critical disaster, but at a reported $150 million cost, its budget was roughly the same as Wicked, and that is a financial disaster.
Yes.
Imagine if a Hollywood mega production like Wicked had opened in just 1,000 theaters and made less than $500,000. It would probably be the box office.
This movie was destroyed by this woman and these two women. Their promo and all that woke, nose in the air attitude, they're just so insufferable, these Hollywood actors. Since they took up the mantle of being activists, they're so insufferable. They're so elitist, and not in a good way. When I talk about elite, I mean like top. But they're elitist, meaning you're pretend elite, You're not really good at what you do, but you found yourself there because of the DI or your father, your mother, your uncle, nepotism. So, but you behave like you're this profound person that people should listen to. Oh my goodness, tell me about how I'm going to live my life, who I'm going to vote for. This kind of people. And I mean, the Saudi movie is suffering some of that because I've seen the fact that it's this woman who's the princess who's refused to marry the Nini because of it's woman empowerment, and people are tired of these movies. Like people are just tired
Story
of
of the year. But because Desert Warrior was shot in Saudi Arabia with Saudi money, and because its distribution problems meant that it received next to no marketing and barely even a wide release, most people didn't even notice that it was there. Or they, like me, assumed that it was just another forgettable movie meant to be burned off for home viewing. But Desert Warrior isn't that. It's a spectacular failure that was meant to announce to the world that Saudi Arabia is a new force to be reckoned with on the global entertainment stage. And while that may still come to pass, it won't be on the back of Desert Warrior, which showed up with no ceremony and will soon be leaving a theater near you. Thanks for watching this video on Desert Warrior, and if you liked what you saw,
Yep. I actually I was very curious about what this was all about. So we have a good picture of what that is, and personally, that's why I've always like if you're talking about Kenyan film, for example, a lot of people when we meet with grants, when we meet with people who want to invest. A lot of people start jumping, oh, we need 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 million shillings to make a movie. Where? What is this movie that you're going to make with that you require so much resources that you're not going to be able to recoup from the market? And this is the lack of business acumen that we have in this industry. That, in fact, that's part of the biggest problems. People want to spend too much money on movies, but the stories are not profound. The stories are not good enough. We don't have our main writers picking up the mantle and writing the best stories. No. Us, what we want to do is we get our grant and we get as much of it as possible so that, of course, we are going to take most of it and spending on ourselves and spend the minimal amounts on the project. Or even then you overpromise and underdeliver, as it always is. So the problem we have, and that's why if you're a Kenyan filmmaker, make sure your movie is below 5 million shillings as a killer script. That is the first thing, that killer script. Don't get mired in this new world identity politics. It's you might think that you're going to get love from it, but you're not. It's going to be short-lived if you do at all. If people give you any love at all, it's going to be short-lived because it's pretentious and it's pompous and there are no good stories in that activism. We all know it. But a lot of people pander to that sensibility because that's where the funding is coming from. And so we are not writing original stories. We are pretending we are half American, the way we express ourselves. Yes, they have an influence on our culture. But we all can't try and speak American. You know, I'm from Kilolasha, Kilimani. That video is coming up. I'm going to be reacting to Sagini Megane's video about the Kalasha, which I thought I didn't care to go. I'll explain why once we watch that video. But I don't know what you think about such a colossal disaster. $150 million spent. $500,000 made in the theaters, in America especially. The mother of all film markets. Hey! That is being shared. Please leave me your comments down below, Kamakao, and of course, like video for the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. I've gotten monetized, so pumping things out. And of course, click that notification bell. I'm told it's important. I've personally not had the experience of them notifying me, but I don't know. So do that, all that necessary to see how it's going. And of course, if you want to support the channel, I'll leave links below to buy me a coffee and M-Pesa number. I'm a VP.